Hello, everyone. Welcome to this special episode of 5 Minutes, Please, by Panj Minute. Today, I'm going to talk about a very, very sensitive subject, and that is in continuation of my previous episodes on media, terrorism, and Punjab. There was so much happening in Punjab, there was so much of bloodshed, and there was so much of violence, and newspapers, radio stations, and even the TV channels, though they were very few, they were full of stories about Punjab, the bloodshed, the violence, and everything, and demands of Sikh separatists or those who were supporting Khalistan or those who were opposing Punjab government's actions in the state. So whatever was appearing in the media was probably not one should expect from media. Objectivity was probably the first casualty. I think I must mention here when I went for a war correspondent course, the first thing we were taught there was that whenever there is a conflict, especially armed conflict, the truth is the first casualty because you cannot and you are not supposed to write against your own government. So whatever the action government takes. So as a patriotic citizen and as a patriotic journalist, you have to follow what government tells you to do. So that is during the war. If America is fighting any country elsewhere in the world, so you are not supposed to write against the government of US. The moment you do that, you will be singled out as anti-national. So same was the case in Punjab. So people who were trying to do objective reporting, telling the truth and reflecting a true picture, they were labeled as anti-government or anti-country. Anyways, so even my editor-in-chief at that time, Mr. V.N. Narayanan, when he wrote a book, Tryst with Terror, he mentioned that after 10 years, 20 years of the trouble ending in Punjab, when people would read or go through old newspapers, they won't be able to know the truth. They will think it was whatever used to appear in newspapers, magazines, was more of a propaganda war than the truth. Very right. He was right in saying that when media was asked to bend, it crawled. It lost so much of credibility that media couldn't stand up and report the events objectively and correctly and in proper perspective. So that was the situation in Punjab at that time. And we all followed whatever was being said and done those days. So my editor in the Tribune, Mr. V.N. Narayanan, also wrote a book on developments in Punjab and covering Punjab. Somewhere in that book, he also mentions about the credibility part of the coverage. So he himself didn't believe, he said, whatever was said during those turbulent years was more of a propaganda, either by the government or by the militant organizations. And in between, there were only a few spells of objective reporting. The rest, most of it, the coverage was distorted or a propaganda or a war of propaganda. Anyways, so everybody had tried to project the situation in Punjab at that time as fairly as possible. But most disturbing part is when you have and when you know you are committing certain aberrations, knowingly or unknowingly. And then once you come to know of those aberrations, instead of correcting yourself, you insist or persist with whatever you had done earlier. I'm not a Sikh scholar, neither am I an expert on Gurbani. So I have no authority to comment on the scriptures, the six scriptures. But I know for certain that they are held in high esteem, and any attempt or any sacrilege is not acceptable. The least tolerant. So there is zero tolerance for any distortion of the holy scriptures or Gurbani. So when I was reading one of those books, those days when those books were published, way back in 1989, 85, 84, 86, there were lots of things which needed clarifications, because which we thought were not correct, or they have been wrongly interpreted, or they have been wrongly quoted. But since the atmosphere was so surcharged and nobody even ever bothered to bring out the corrected versions, I happened to go to Udaipur for Maharana Haldigati Awards. It used to be organized by Maharana of Udaipur. There, one of the recipients of awards was Mr. M.J. Akbar, very well-known journalist. And he had come out with his book, India, The Siege Within. And before I had gone to Udaipur, I had read that book. So I was slightly upset about a chapter in that book, the chapter number 11, which was about Sant Jarnail Singh Bhindranwale. So when I met Mr. M.J. Akbar, so I told him, I said, I have read your book, but I am sorry to point out you have committed a sacrilege. He said, why? What sacrilege? I said, you have quoted, I don't know whether you have quoted Sant Jarnail Singh Bhindranwale, or you didn't say in as many words that this is what Sant Bhindranwale said when you met him in Amritsar. So you have quoted one part of Gurbani, one sentence from Gurbani. You said, Raj karega khalsa, baki rahe na koi. It is not baki, it is aki. So your entire chapter on Sant Jarnail Singh Bhindranwale is with this famous quote from Gurbani, baki rahe or aki rahe. Baki means, except for Khalsa, everyone would perish. But that was not the actual Gurbani. Aki is something different. And he said, is it? I said, yes. It's not Baki, but it is Aki. And I was so stunned. I was so amazed. I told him also, I said, I am surprised. None of 6 scholars have ever reacted to your book and this chapter. He says, honestly, Prabhjot, no one has ever pointed it out to me. But now, when you have pointed it out to me, I'll try and go back and make whatever the necessary amendments are. Though I don't know whether he did or not, but I didn't see any amended or an revised edition of the book till about 2010 or 2014. So this is the extent to which very senior journalists went and wrote about it. I can read out that para, the first para of that chapter. It says, I do not want to rule. I would like 6 to rule. Rule Delhi. Rule the world. Raj karega Khalsa. Baki rahe na koi. In the next 10 years, the 6 will get their liberation. That will definitely happen. I do not know if I will be alive to see a new country or not. I have not started a new country, but that does not mean that I am against it. I am neither for nor against Khalistan. We want to stay in India as equals. It is now for Delhi to decide whether they will force us to take Khalistan or not, whether they will allow us to live with honor or not. After all, Pakistan was created. This is the first para of his book, chapter number 11, titled Jarnail Singh Bhindranwale. But going through this para, it means that he is probably quoting what Sant Jarnail Singh Bhindranwale may have said while talking to newsmen in his presence. But I cannot and no one will ever believe that Sant Jarnail Singh didn't know that Raj Karega Khalsa Aki Rahe Na Koe is the quotation from Gurbani, not Baki Rahe Na Koe. So Sant Jarnail Singh Bhindranwale cannot be held responsible for this misquote. So this is basically because he was so well versed in Gurbani, Sant Jarnail Singh Bhindranwale. Every word he spoke of Gurbani was probably what should be spoken or what is the true Gurbani. Because he was well versed, he was a preacher, Sikh religious preacher, basically. And he was an expert in Gurbani and he would recite Gurbani very fluently, and one cannot expect he would make such a serious mistake. So I didn't see anything, any rejoinder or any clarification afterwards, neither from Penguin, the company that brought out that book, or from Mr. M.J. Akbar, or from any Sikh organization who protested against this. I think it was a serious sacrilege. Because when you distort Gurbani and then interpret the whole chapter based on a distorted quote from Gurbani, it means something absolutely different. So I thought I will bring it to your notice and let you know that this is how some of the senior journalists covered and reported Punjab. Now, we have to decide whenever you read a book on Punjab, how credible or how correct is that book. Because people took so many liberties with Punjab, Punjabiyat, and Sikh history and Gurbani. That's all for this edition of 5 minutes, please. Bas 5 minute. More in coming episodes. Till then, goodbye. Stay happy, stay calm.